Hello and welcome to another ARCHLine.XP live webinar. My name is Zoltán Tóth. Over here is our resident architect, as always, Mr. Illéspa. Today we are going to look at how to use ARCHLine.XP Live for architectural projects. Last time we looked at an interior design example, and today we are going to mostly talk about the outside of a building. Lots to do, so let's take a look. As always, I encourage you to ask your questions either below the video or on the right hand side.
Yeah.
It's somewhere there. Anyway, you have to be logged into YouTube or Gmail in order to comment, but the comments are always valuable. That way the show can be a little more concise and relevant.
Yeah.
So what we are going to do today is we are going to investigate how to use ARCHLine.XP Live to turn this building into an immersive model. But for those of you who are new to what Live actually is, Illés, can you tell the audience in a few words what Live actually signifies?
Live is an Archviz tool that allows you to separate software that you can install and download separately, and it is allowing you to create spectacular, realistic visuals in literally seconds, as you will see. It is also bound in a way together with the design system, but you can use it separately as well. But today we will also focus on what sort of advantages you have if you use it together with the design system. But I also will let you know what sort of file formats you can use if you are using ARCHLine.XP Live separately with another software. And next week we will have another interesting session about one specific use of Live with a specific software, but we will discuss that later. So today, the model that we use today might be familiar for many of you because we use this quite frequently for demonstrations, but this time we will use it to demonstrate the abilities of Live and trying to give you advices what are important things when you are about to create something that is mostly focused on the exterior, not the interior. There are similarities, of course. We would like to show you workflow tips and actual ideas, what you can do with the software and how you can do that, and also some things that we did not discuss previously in previous sessions. That if you are new to this new version of Live, then you will find interesting.
That's right, but I believe a picture tells more than 1,000 words. So we have a short video on Live actually, what Live actually is. So until we prepare the model for work, let's just look at this slide reel to be able to see what Live actually does. So let's take a look. impressive stuff. So how do you get there? We have the project. That's where we start in ARCHLine.XP, the design software. But that's not a rendered visual. So how do we get started?
Yeah, so well, the model has, I just created a few external views that we will work with. There is a view from the backyard, and there is this close-up frontal view. There is a view that shows the surrounding a bit. We will work on that a little bit as well.
Yep.
And a few views from the interior, but now we will focus on the exterior first. Well, I will actually work on this view as well, because I would like to talk about the lights as well. So we have all the views previously saved, and as I mentioned, the lights, the lamps, we actually added a few lamps, spotlights, pendant lamps, and so on into this interior, so that we will be able to communicate this information to the visual and then change it if we want. And as we already are inside, let me just start here, but I will show you that also in the external part. We have beautiful textures, materials on the surfaces of this design, which we created here for the sake of the documentation, of course. So we have this floor, which has this beautiful, this is the wall. We actually have the ceiling as well, which is named as a ceiling material. We have the floor, which is dedicated to be a pocket or something like that with a nice seamless texture. And if I jump to the outside, let's just go to the outdoor close-up view. Here we have this surface, which is actually a bright white wall surface. And now when I'm highlighting these are the render styles that are important when you would like to create something visual. So if you create a material, if you use a material in ARCHLine, those materials all fall into one category of the visual styles that you can decide whether this is a glass surface, a metal surface, chrome surface. And in case of the pool, it would be important that we actually have a pool here with a surface that is dedicated to be a water surface. So this is a special one, as you will see in the final visual, because this should live on its own, blown by the wind and so on. So this will be a little bit special. But other than that, we just created the design as the architects, and then I will show you also that at the point when you start creating the visuals, that is usually not the very final point, when sometimes you cannot even decide whether the design will surely not change or something like that. So I will show you also how to realize changes that are natural in a design system. Well, I actually have a few things disabled now, which I will use for that, but let's talk about that later. So we have this model with all the views, lights, materials, and an important thing, an additional important thing, which is the sunlight and the orientation and the north direction of this building, which you can always set up if you go to the file. Well, there are several places where you can do that, but one is if you go to the file beam project parameters, and then you just set up the location on Google Earth or somewhere else. Now, so this is what you can do. And then let me just go back to the visual here. And then
what about
the simulation? Sorry, I just wanted to show you the shadow simulation, so you can actually just find a good time during the day and say that, okay, this is when I would like to have some sort of shading, and then this is what I will see in the final visual, which we will create soon in live. So this is what is necessary. And then I actually have an animation as well, which we will use. I've created an animation path using this animation path define path option. Command. If I go back to the 2D, here I have this little curve, which is an animation path. If I go and jump to the create animation, I can just play it for you. It's like 9 seconds long, and it's just a nice panning video climbing up a little bit and then just resting at the end point like this. So this is what I've created. I could create many more. I just wanted to show you how this is possible in the software, and you could save this as a kind of like a drawing result, in animated result. And we will also use this for realistic final videos as well. So this is what we have here. And I think...
one question here. So far you talked about visual design, but the project also entails documentation, such as layouts and sections, elevations. At what stage you would do that? In what kind of environment?
Well, now, because this project is actually fully finished, this is why we have all the documentation parts as well. But it's not kind of, let's say, it's not deterministic. You can just say that, okay, at a point, I just would like to create visuals because obviously my clients would like to see how it looks like, what is the surrounding like, how the sun affects my design and so on. They would like to immerse into your design very likely sooner than you finish the design. So at this point it's fully finished, but we could start this whole thing somewhere in between when we already have the building to show. But we, for example, in this situation, we don't have the surrounding yet. We did not get the plan from the local authorities, so we don't know the exact sizes. I will jump back to that point later. So now we are at the stage when we already know the building, we actually know the building block itself. This is fully our design, and then later when changes come, I will show you how to update the visual as well with those changes that come during the design process.
Okay, so now we are ready to push this model into live.
Yes.
How does that happen?
So well, when you initially start making the first visual of the design, you can either go with this or this. That doesn't matter. I will start, just for the sake of simplicity, I will start with the first option, but I could go with this one. Later, when I already have the design, I will only use the sync option because then I would like to sync changes. But now what I do, I just first kind of export this information, what I have with all the surfaces, all the materials, all the objects, lights perhaps, street lights, benches, if I would have, and anything else. And then what happens in the ARCHLineXP Live automatically starts, loads this information, loads the sun settings, all the views that I have created with all the materials. I will show you that as well. And then I already have the model itself as an interactive visual that I can not just change the visual, but I can also create new things, add new things, and then later update my changes into those views that I already have. So now what happened, now that live is quickly jumping from one view to another one, it's because it is taking the snapshots, it's just taking the photographs. So now even at this initial stage where I did not put any, for example, plants around or cars on the street or anything like that, I can already communicate with my clients, because those views here at the bottom, they are not only views, but they are also images on my hard drive. So these are the PNG files that are generated at the same time when ARCHLine created the model. And then later, as I develop this model, let me just jump to one of these external views. So later, when I develop this into something more dense, more detailed, more vivid and lifelike, then I can easily update those views into something more realistic. So what I have here are the images. Let's say I just sent over my first designs to the clients. We discuss the things, and then I start working on what we discussed.
How do you set up the resolution for this? Maybe I want to set it in a higher resolution. How do I do that?
Yes, by default, the software's default setting, the software will create in the highest application resolution, which is now what appears on screen. And that is something that you can go and change in the options here, and that is the snapshots and animations. So if you would like to make sure that you create something in full HD, you just select this option and you say that from this point on, whatever happens, it will be always in full screen, whether this should be a snapshot that I create or an animation.
So you said that the views have been imported, right?
Yeah.
And you also mentioned in the beginning that you set up the right materials and render styles.
Yes.
How do they appear in ARCHLine?
Yes. So well, let's just jump back to this close-up view for the first one. So here I mentioned we have wall surfaces and metal surfaces and so on. So what I have here, if I click on this surface and I select this edit materials, I can tell that this is a wall surface. There is somewhere inside, if I jump into any of those internal views, I can see that this actually is a ceiling material, and I can just change them if I don't like that, or if I would like to test how it looks like with a different setting, then I can change it. And that the same applies to the bucket. I can change its brightness, reflectivity, roughness, and so on. So that makes a change automatic in the 3D view. So those describe how this how the surfaces of this building look like, and I can also use my own materials from the Navigator library here. So if I would like to spice it up a little bit and I would like to use those dry, lifelike, very detailed materials here, let me just go to for example the stone flooring, and I will just apply a nice kind of concrete tile here. So I just click and drag and release it over there. And let's see, now it has some nice texture. That's a bit better. And then what I would like to use, I just would like to apply this, for example, for example, a cobblestone here. And then let's see, let me just zoom into this a little bit. As you can see, this is really already like 3D, like a 3D surface, but this is actually just a very good quality material.
How about the water surface in the background? Can you, the backyard? You mentioned that you defined a water render style, but what do you see of that now?
Yes, well, now what we have here is this pool with the flowing water on top of it. It's because the software understood that I told in the design system that this should be water, so it should be blown by the wind. Now it's a default water. If you like it, you can keep it. If you don't like, or just would like to test it with another one, then you can go to the water library. Still, I'm in the Navigator in the materials page, and I just go to the water and I tested whether this would look better with clean water or pool water or something a little bit deeper. So I just test it, and when I think
the one that you like,
say okay, this is okay, then I just keep it. So, and the same applies for these metals. For example, now this metal is nearly perfect. I like how it reflects everything.
How about the things in the background?
For example, I forgot about this. I can go and I could use the metal materials here from metal library, and I can say that okay, this is also something like a chrome material. Now, instead of changing materials one by one, I can actually just undo this and tell the software that okay, let's change all instances. So if I used this white material with the same name anywhere else, then it should change everywhere. So it's a little bit faster. Like that, the same applies, for example, for this material here, and of course for the glazing here. If I just would like to test what it would look like with an acrylic glass or a blue-tint glass, or for example a striped glass or something like that, I can test it, and if I like it this better or this better, I can just say okay, let's go with this one because I think this will fit much better than the previous one.
What about lights? You mentioned that you have specified a few lamps, and how do you have access to their lighting properties?
Well, the lights, those are, let's just start from the interior first, because I told you that those are these nice pendant lamps and so on, and then I will go to the outside because I would like to continue working over there. So now on top of this panel here, you can find the edit lamps and lights. If you click here, the software reveals all the lights. And then you can just select any of those. Let me just focus on to this one, for example. Yes. So if I select this, actually has two light sources. So if I just would like to, I can turn one component on or off, and then I can select the other one. And if I would like to, I can just turn it on, change how bright it is, how powerful it is, and I can also change this to be a real light. And then in that case, as you can see, it is also casting shadows in the surrounding. Now, the reason why it's important, now this helper or real light, is that now this is more realistic, but it is also more costly for the software. So
makes sense.
Live is lightning fast. As you can see, whatever you do changes instantly and happens instantly. Even when I update the image, it will take only 1 second, and I have the same good quality image at the end. But if I have too many of these light sources that really cast shadows, then the software has to calculate more. So the idea here is that if I can give you a good advice on this, the software will determine all light sources helper lights because it's easier to handle, but you should go around and check whether you would like to determine that this light source and that light source and that light source, a few of them are real shadow casters, because in that case the model, the visual will be more realistic but still won't use cast shadows everywhere, which would slow down the work. So just focus on the most important lights and turn them into real shadow casters, but not all of them. Okay.
How about the sunlight?
Well, just one another thing I wanted to highlight here, that you can even change the tone of the light.
So you can fine tune that. But this information is all coming from ARCHLine.
Yes.
Regarding the sunlight, how does the software know where the north direction is?
Well, this came from the so the north direction came from the design system. But if you are using this model with an external source, which is not ARCHLine but another different design system, and you used any of those import file formats that Live itself can import individually, then you have the option to change the north direction here, and you can also at any time, even whatever the source is, you can change the sun direction. Based on the location, date, and time. Now, this is an interesting thing here, because you can actually create two different versions of one view, because these settings that I set up here, those are view dependent. If I go to the...
You can customize what happens in a certain view, but that would have no effect on the other views.
Yeah. So, okay, let me show you two things that makes you understand what is view dependent and what is not. Let me just go here. And well, first things first, I would like to change the grass texture everywhere.
Yes.
So what I do, I go to find something nice in the environment.
Or you could be using the search bar at the top if you.
Yeah. I could just search grass or something like that. So this is what I would like to use. I apply it onto this surface, and the reason because this option is on, it will change everywhere. So the same applies if I change, for example, the asphalt material and so on. So this is what happens. Now let me just undo that, because I did not want to change it over there. So I just change it only over here.
Yeah, I think this looks better.
So this is what I do. I also, let me just quickly finish that to make it in a second nice and finish that. This here should be concrete. This should be cobblestone. I use cobblestone over there. So let's just make them equal like this, with this one and this one. Okay, so that's a bit better. I have nice grass, and I also use something of a concrete material over here on this surface, and for example on this surface. That's nice, clean. So now I've finished. So everything that I've changed, it has an effect on all of my views. If I go here, everything is the same. If I go here, everything is the same. So this is view independent. What I change as a material, as a so-called geometrical details, when I add the details, which I will do soon, those happen everywhere. But
and what are view dependent?
But when I go to this one and I say, well, sorry, let me just create a clone of this view. So I would like to create one another. This I will name as night view. Okay, so those both represent the same point of view with the same materials. But if I go here and I change for example, let me just change the date as well. Let me just change the time as well. Now if I go back here, I have the night view and I have the outdoor view. Both represents the same model, but the location, the date and time is dependent on the view. And now I have an option. If I would like to turn all my views into night view, then I can go to the edit sunlight and use this to kind of copy paste the same setting to all of my views. This would happen like this. If I say yes, then all my views would turn into a night view.
I'm thinking of another method. What about you take you always use the best lighting for that particular view. How do you do that? For example, if you look at the building from the front or from the back, you don't want this to be shadowed. But if you move the sunlight, then on the other side there will be shadows, right? So you don't want either of that. You want both sides to be equally lit. How do you do that?
Yeah, you can fix it the same exact way. So you just find a view that you would like to spice up, and you say that, well, this would be much better somewhere in the afternoon, like this. And then that's it. It's already done. You already have this view with this setting, and you still have the frontal view, for example, this one, at the original location. See, well, actually, if I move my mouse over this view, I see the name, and there is the date and time. It's 11 o'clock in the morning, and the other one is actually already somewhere in the afternoon. I cannot see the changes represented yet on this tiny thumbnail, but it's only because I need to update the view, and then everything is updated here as well, and on the image as well. And later I will show you, when we have a lot of things changed, how you can update all of these views.
Can we start boosting the model with some more objects, maybe foliage? For an architectural model, it's very important to sort of represent the environment with trees and bushes and other things to make it a bit more lifelike. So how do you do that?
Let me start with, for example, a car and a human. Let's just pick, because actually this is the building which we are focusing on. The rest is just a kind of representative thing. So I will just start detailing this part, but later we will finish the rest.
Yeah, you could copy
so when I will use this hatchback car here. I just select it, and now of course you can use these options to move, rotate, and rescale the object, and the same applies for the 1, 2, 3 shortcuts on the keyboard. So if you would like to refine the position, you would like to rotate the model, it's a very easy thing to do. You can even bend it a little bit if it's something like that, if you would like to do that. And then you can add human figure from the libraries. Let me just add Fabienne here, for example, with her kid. And let's just jump into the interior. And actually here, I have a living room part, which we discussed already here, this one. And let's just play Sophia. Now we actually have an animated Sophia here, so I will put her here.
Oh, so she's moving.
So yeah, she's actually living with the environment. She's just, stepping from one like
she's
to
very
the other
judgmental because there's nothing in the room.
Yeah,
to
it's
look
still.
at. So how about we add some more foliage or some more?
Yeah. So well, this is here with this detail, and now let me just add foliage. You told me that. Well, there's actually two ways. One is if you would like to decorate like very specific decoration you would like to add. You would like to add a few plants, especially a few bushes or something like that. Then you can just select them here, or you can go to the trees library and you can say that, well, this here, which is by the way, they are represented with a tiny human figure, so you can see what the size will be. So you can just click and drag and release, and then, well, that's it over there. And again, here you can just enable this option, and in that case, when you have a selected item, you don't need to click and drag always. You just click into the place where you would like to place it. And so that's how you do it. And then I will just add one sakura, perhaps a smaller one like this one over here. And then I will just add the nice populace over here, for example. Well, actually, this is a point where I perhaps would like to add some grass to the details.
Hopefully,
and then,
you don't have to add them by.
Well, no.
Every single blade has to be positioned.
Well, I could if I want, but for example, like these leaves, scattered leaves, I just would like to place them something like this, but. If I would like to place a large bunch of things like trillions of grass leaves, then I would use something that we call the foliage painter. So I go here, and the default brush, we actually have 4 default brushes. You can customize these brushes, so whatever you would like to, you can select here, and you can go with any of those. So if I use the default grass field, and then what I do, let me just turn the camera over a little bit. So I just click and drag and just paint this area, like spray the area with this dense and actually living, moving grass surface. We also have a cut grass. So if I would use that, it would be more and less wild.
But I like this one.
Anyway,
what happens if you're not coloring within the lines? If you know what I mean. What happens if you overextend and you?
Okay, so let me just do that here. For example, I would like to spray a larger area like this one, and then, well, if I do that, it's easier to make a mistake. Like, see, I'm not too good at that with this size of brush, but I can actually work faster. So what I do now, I just quickly spray this area with the grass, and then I use the eraser. I fine-tune the brush size, and I say, okay, so here I should erase that as well, and so on also here, and I can just click here and here. So I just trim it back. Also, the same thing happens if I would like to add a few bushes, like here and over there.
Maybe with some trees. How can you add things to this palette?
Well, if I would like to, what I could do, this is actually how this small grove was created. So the small grove is consisting of one type of tree, grass, and bog myrtle bush. So if I would like to change this, for example, I can remove this from here, and I could say that, well, instead of that one, I would like to use something like this acacia. So I just click and drag, paste it over here, and then I have the ratio. The ratio decides how many of those I would like to see. So if I spray now, let's just spray this area with that one. See, sometimes a tree also appears.
So you predefine not only the content but also the frequency of the elements.
Yeah. So that happens. So I just do the same thing here. A few trees appear over there, and so on. And I can actually add many more trees. So I can just create a small grove with a completely different content, and the same applies for the trees.
Before we add further details, let's say that this is the time when the client came back to us saying that he wants to have some kind of changes in the plan.
Yeah.
How do you synchronize those changes with live? Because you don't want to lose what you have already created, right?
No.
So you want to go back to the design software, do a few things, but these changes, what you have done, you want to keep them.
Yeah.
So how do you synchronize the changes?
Okay, so now that I have those changes appearing here, that came the situation. I jump back to ARCHLine, which is this application. And then, well, we discussed with the local authorities that here are the 3D models, very simple models that you can just paste here, and then you can just
of the surrounding
visualize
buildings,
the surrounding buildings. So I've got that. Or sometimes, well, in this specific situation, we actually use the tools of the software, which you can find in the building terrain, and we have something like building volume. You can sketch buildings. So whatever the source was, let me just go outside to the surrounding included. So the change will be more obvious this way. I actually have this layer called surrounding buildings. This is where I just put those things. This is it. So now I have a relatively detailed surrounding. So now I would like to add this to my existing design, which already I invested a lot of work into. So now I could do, because I already started working it, I could just go into the view, renderings, and sync. So, but instead of that, I use its counter twin, which is the same command, just within live. Within live, you can find the same exact command. So if you go here and you use live sync, this is identical. This is the same command. If you click here, then the software updates the changes. See, now we are surrounded with those buildings. So now all the changes that I made during how long that took, the software understands that when the same project where I started from and the same live project are both opened at any time, it understands the changes. So it will sync the changes, and it was lightning fast because it is communicating only the changes. So whatever else was already there, the software did not push it as a second copy or something like that. So only the changes appeared here.
What you did now is that you enable the visibility of things you have already created before.
Yeah.
But can you show us an example where you actually create something in ARCHLine and then you synchronize the changes, just so that we can see an example for that too?
Okay, so for that we can use this view, which is for the backyard. Here, this one. So here in the backyard we have this pool, which will be very simple to edit for me because it is actually a nice slab with another slab here. Sometimes you ask, sometimes the viewers ask how I create water into a pool. It's a very simple surface. You don't need to have a real water volume inside it. You just need a flat surface. And in ARCHLine, one of the easiest ways to create something like that is a slab. So I just actually use the slab here and here. Actually, I will reveal this in ARCHLine, so you can see that here. Let me just jump back to the same view, which is the backyard view. Okay, so this is a slab and that is a slab. Now let me just try to find those in the 2D. There is a nice command here, show on floor plan. Okay, that's it over there. I actually created a helper guideline over there, but I will just, what I do now, I will just use this slab counter and I just move its nodes to somewhere into those corner points. I don't want to be very specific, but or I could erase the existing one and create a new one. I just would like to show you that whatever you do, however you do that, you end up with a different result, which is reflected in the 2D. Let me just square this up.
And the point here is that what you're showing now is that even if you change something in the model as far as geometry is going, you can synchronize those kind of changes. So we want to give you an example for that too. less to avoid that you would think that only material changes could be synchronized, which any kind of things you do in ARCHLine when it comes to geometry, you can synchronize those things. And the point is that in the beginning, you remember it took a while to import the model because it is a heavy model with many surfaces. But when we are synchronizing it, it happens instantaneously. So you don't have to wait for that synchronization over and over again. You just push a button and it synchronizes. So whenever you are doing a design, it happens that you have to go back to ARCHLine and do a few things and then synchronize the changes because realistically that's how a design process is. But this is a one-directional exchange. So when you create something in ARCHLine, you can synchronize those changes with live, but it's not really going back. So this means that if you want to create something which you want to document as well, then you better do those things in ARCHLine.
And then sync the changes.
Because then you can create the layouts that you see in the bottom right. We are going to return to that topic a little bit later. So now we have a changed version of the project. Ilya sketched something in real time. So how do you push the changes into live?
Well, that's the same exact way. You just either use this option or you use it from within live. And the reason I'm using it from live because it will be more obvious. I don't have to switch
very
between
quick question. You already applied a different material to the border surface. Do you have to do that again or?
Well, let's see. If I just use this, if I use live sync, see now the changes are appeared and because I actually created a completely new slab.
Yes.
If I would have changed the original slab, just as I did with this one,
exactly.
Then the software would keep the changes. But now because I created a completely new slab and I erased the old one, so my changes that I applied were applied to the old one. Now my changes were lost. But if I change something, instead of erasing and recreating a new one, that is a difference. So this is what happened.
Don't forget that in the view thumbnails, you can see that we still have the old round swimming pool. So if you want to update that, you would have to do that manually. Unless you do that, the software would keep that view.
Well, actually, now I can show you because we have a lot of changes happened over here. So most of these views are already outdated. I don't see the car here and so on. So if you would like to, you can also use this option here to update all the views at one single go. If you say yes, then now the software goes through all of your images and just recreates all the shots. And if an image is at nighttime or a different,
it keeps the sun.
It will keep the same setting. The sun position. So now we have all those beautiful views as updated images here on our desk with the different settings of the scenery.
Now that we talked about the night image, maybe that would be a good pretext to show you effects how they work in ARCHLine Live.
You mean
the fire and this kind of things?
Yes. So let's just go here. And let me just change the settings
for
to
now so that we can see
like this, and then I will go back to the night setting. So what I do now, I just go here and I try to find something. I know, as a fact, I know we have something called fireplace. So I just use this modern fireplace. I put it here. Let me just turn it around a bit like that, and then I just go and search for chairs. We have quite a few of those, like nice, beautiful, detailed chairs, like this one here.
Can you actually show how to copy elements?
Yeah,
you could drag and drop them, but you can also copy them. The same things can be used here.
I can. Yeah. So what I do now, I just align it a bit, and then now what I do, I just Control Copy, and then I just hover my mouse over here because that's where I would like to spawn it. I would like to place it over there. So I just Control V, paste it, and then I could just paste as many copies as I want. Then what then what I do, I just refine it, and if I would like to, I can also find a nice fire. I will go with the medium size. I think that will be enough. No, it's a bit wild, so let's just go with this one.
By the way, Elish is using Control Z if he wants to undo things.
Yeah. So you can, instead of continuously keep clicking here, you can use Control Z to undo changes. So this is what happened. And also, so you keep developing these things, and you leave it off, and then next day, if there are some changes, you just both open the changes in ARCHLine, you open the existing design, and then you sync the changes. So this is how you react to those changes that happen either online, let's say like on the run, or just when you did something in the nighttime and then you just would like to spice it up a little bit, then you can just change it later on. And then
can we record an extra view? Because I think we did that before, just a reminder. Let's make a view of this. now.
Yeah. So like,
it's not that spectacular, but at least
like a completely new view.
Yeah, like a completely new one.
Yeah. Okay. So if I select this one like that, and then I just go to this snapshot view, this is how I add the new ones. And I can just say that this is the fireplace view.
Another thing I'm thinking about is that we learned how to synchronize the changes from ARCHLine, but what happens if you want to just pick one object or material from ARCHLine? You don't want to synchronize the whole model. You just want to get one particular thing from ARCHLine. How do you do that?
Well, for that one, what I will do, I will just use this area here. I would like to place, so it's a bench. So, well, in ARCHLine, just as we did before, I could go into the design system, find anything that is the best to place that object, find the object itself, it's a bench that I would like to place here, and just place it over here, and then just push the sync button and sync the changes.
Yes, you could do that. Or
that would be identical to what I did before. But I also would like to show you what you can do if you just would like to send over an object from this object library to live, so that later at any time you can just pick it up and just place it into any of your designs. So in that case, you click here and you say that you would like to export this object to live. I believe I already did that, so I won't send it over again because I think it is already here. So if I did that before, then in the navigator, in the object library, I will find something called the imported objects, this one. So here, as you see, I already did that. So it appears automatically, instantaneously, and then you can just click and drag and you can use it as any other object. Now,
but the funny thing is that that now we are using the object with its materials as it came from another software.
Now we actually downloaded this from the warehouse in ARCHLine.
Exactly. Can you change the materials? And if you have done that, how can you save it back to live? So next time when you're using it, it's already loading up with the changed materials. So how do you do that?
Well, for any things that are appearing here and then that you can select in live, you can customize it and you can resave it the way I show you now. So if I would like to make another version of this one, I just customize it. Let me just add, so this will be bright white. Let's just go with the basic white material. And this will be something of a different wood, like let's just go with mahogany. Well, I think this looks cool. But let's just test another. Well, maybe this is much better. Yes. Okay, so let's just keep this. So, well, from this point on, I would like to have this as a ready-made object that I can just use like this, instead of just Control copy and Control paste. Because for that I need this project. I don't want to use it only in this project. I would like to use it in different library, ones. Yeah. Right? So if I would like to save this back into the navigator's library, all I need to do is, I actually did that before. I created a new folder with this one, create a new folder, and I named it My Objects. So if I double click here, you can see that there's a few objects that I already imported and anyways, I just added. So now what I would like to, I just select this one, and I can actually select multiple things together, but I just would like to save this now. And then I click here, create a new item, and it is automatically added to the library. And let me just name it like, what was this? What was the material? It was like...
Oh, it was mahogany.
Mahogany, for example. Okay, so let's say it's a mahogany...
I think an A is missing, but...
Anyway, so this will be a mahogany bench. Bench.
Okay, so the point is that from now on, that would be part of your library. So if you open up a next project, a clean one even, you can use it with this material definition.
Yeah, and I can easily use it just the same way. If I just click here and I just would like to continuously place a few copies here and here and here, then I can just easily work with that. So from this point on, it appears in any of my projects and I can just use it as a built-in library item.
Before we start creating exports, namely images, let's discuss camera effects, because that's again something, but whenever you are doing a rendering, you always want to do some afterwork, right? You want to define the field of view, depth of field probably, you want to maybe desaturize the colors so you have a nice black and white effect. So how do you do that?
let me add something that is closer to us so I can represent this change
maybe
a bit
some
better.
large trees, so
Like
you
a-
see the
yeah,
barks.
like or at least a medium-sized tree or something like this appearing over here, for example. It's too close, so like something like this. So if I would like to, I can change the camera effects, and the camera effects appear here. If you just enable this, you can change the field of view, how much the camera sees from that point of view. So I'm not changing, I'm not zooming actually. I'm not moving the camera, I'm just changing I'm in the same spot and I'm just changing how much the camera sees. So I can just change this. I can change the exposure to change how much light the camera gets.
You can compensate for that. That's good.
Yeah, I can also change the brightness, contrast, saturation. I can just easily quickly create a dark tone. I mean the black and white grayscale tone of an image, or kind of like a desaturated but a little bit colored version of that. So this is how it goes. I can change the white balance. So if I would like to, I can just, let me just turn the camera over like this. This is much better. So I just change the white balance to make it a little bit more summer-like. So it is becoming warmer, if you can see. If I make it extreme, it is a little bit like a sepia
Vintage.
effect, but yeah, it's a bit vintage. But if I just increase a tiny bit, I can see that, well, this is good. This is nice. I can understand this is a summertime image, and I can also turn on the depth of field, which now makes the whole thing blurry because now the camera focus is close somewhere to the tree. But I can just say that, okay, with this one, I would like to focus on the car. So now everything here closer to the camera is a bit blurry. Yeah, we will save that, thank you. And I can also change the strength. If I can make it a little bit more, how to say, like obvious that now everything is very, very blurry, close to the camera, and everything that is far is not so much.
Can I ask you to close the navigator for a second?
Yeah,
so
sorry.
That we can...
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Oh, now we can see that.
So it is very blurry. Even if I go closer, it will be very, very, very blurry. I can see it's a tree, but it's not an important point of the design. If I just disable it and enable, you can see the changes.
So you can just pick what to focus on, but can you make it automatic?
Yeah, with this one. So if I don't want to deal with that and I just would like to apply all these changes to all of my views, I just use the same button here. It's just a little bit smaller, but it's for the same effect. I can update all my views with the same settings and say, yes, okay, apply this to all of my views. So if I navigate to the backyard view, here in the backyard, I also have the depth of field effect. If I zoom out a little bit, I can see that the wall is a bit blurry. So as I develop this design a little bit further, if I go into the interior, like to, for example, to this view or something like that, I can see that the same effects, the same tones and everything is applied. So again, the camera properties are camera dependent, so you can make them appear the same whole way everywhere, or you can just say that, well, here maybe it's a bit too warm, so let me just cool it off a little bit and change its saturation and change the exposure. It's a bit too much, so it is changed here but not on the rest of the views.
I see. What about the animation? We already created an animation path.
Yeah.
So we could retrieve that, and also we can make another animation path, right?
Yeah. For that, again, if you go to the animation that you already have, you just go to the animation tray here, and you just start playing the animation. I only created one, so that's why there is only one appearing. So if I start playing that, now it's exactly the same path, exactly the same content, but with the rest that I have added. And then
how can you record another one?
Well, if I like this, I can already save this into a video file. It takes 2 or 3 minutes maximum in full HD to generate this video, and then I have this as a video file. But if I would like to add a new view, like for example, I used to create a panning video like this, somewhere here, like this. That is a new animation that is actually just climbing a little bit. It's nothing fancy, just a little bit of movement.
Climb and tilt a little bit, looking downwards.
So I added the first keyframe, and then I just move my camera to the new position, tilt it a little bit, perhaps also turn it a little bit, but not too much. And then I just add the new keyframe. So now it's a 1 second video. It will be very, very fast. So I just change it to, let's say it's perhaps 5 seconds would be nice. And then I just jump back to the beginning and let's just start playing that. So this is how it looks like.
It looks very good, especially because you see that things are moving.
Yeah, and this is also something that I could give as a good advice. Don't create one single shot large videos that you walk through the whole building or something like that, because first things first, that would not be so much interesting for the viewer.
That's right.
And another thing is that it is easier to create mistakes. So instead of creating large, I don't know, 1 minute shots when you walk around the whole building, you just create short shots like this animation 1, 2, 3. You can even name them like let me just name this as climbing.
Can you show us how to stitch the animations together?
And then what you do is that you just stitch them together as one single sequence. You can even add that at the transition.
Sorry, before you do that, we see that on the left hand side there's some empty space. You don't want to see that. So can you override the starting position looking a little bit to the right?
Yes. So if you find that this is not the best one, you just change it
that's
like
what
that,
I was looking.
and then you update it. So it's the same exact idea. Like you update the keyframes. And from this point on, if you play this, I actually enable the handleless sequence transitions. So I don't even need to use, I need to fix the starting, but as you can see, it is moving.
Perfect.
And then when it comes to the end of the first session, it turns into the following one, and so on and so on. So if I would push this button here, then now I could create the long video with shot 1, shot 2, shot 3 into one single video file.
One question from my side. Now that the design process is done, we have a bunch of views. Is it possible to go back to ARCHLine? We have a layout over there. And add one of the views that we created onto the layout.
Yes, because these are image files. So if you go to the library of the snapshots and you would like to add any of these are images on your hard drive. So onto your layout, you can paste. It's actually,
I think we already have a layout
one,
over
this
there.
here.
Yes.
Yeah. So here you can insert any of those image files. So it's a very, very simple thing to do. And just as a final touch, let me just show you that. So, okay, this is where we got to now, but a little bit more of work. We actually created another version of this one.
And I have a video of that, so we can view it until it loads. I can show you how the end result should look like. So this is already a much more furnished work. Obviously it would take more time to elaborate it the way you see on the screen, but the point is that there was no after work in this except when we put the sequences together. All this was created in ARCHLine.XP Live. So the point is that, as we have seen this Tuesday, 2 days ago, you can use the software for interior design projects as well, and also for architectural rendering. So the idea here is that to use Live to its advantage, add the number of surfaces, add that depth that you need, or movement that you need to bring your design to life. In a second, we are going to see the project in live as well, so we can compare and see how much happened since we created this project. So
that's the project itself with the details that you saw on the video. And here I wanted to show you one trick, because from time to time we've got this question how we can handle things appearing in the far. So obviously you have the option to paint the area with trees, but sometimes you can combine things that are very, very far with detailed things that are closer to you by adding something. So let me just go and find a view, for example, from here. And if I just zoom to here, I can still see that there's some sort of emptiness. So for this, I actually have an object in ARCHLine which I already exported. Let me show you that. So I just used warehouse to search for this simple term background. Yeah, I should spell it correct. So so background, like that. So I just found this one, which is a nice curvy plate with
pretty huge. It's more than 100 meters.
Yeah, as you can see, it's very large. So it actually has a transparent, like it's like a curvy paper cut. It's a transparent material on it. It's actually not too much detail, so it's if you zoom into it, it's a little bit blurry, but that's fine because it will do its purpose very well if you use it in live in a far distant part of this project. So what I do, let me just zoom out a little bit, and then I will just find this because I already saved it. I believe it's in my objects library, this one. So I just imported it from ARCHLine, the same exact way I did with the mahogany bench. So I just click and drag, release it over here. See, now it's over there. Let me just, it's bent like this, and I would like to turn it around. So I just use this one. Nice, cool, that's fine. And then what I do, I just push it back to the ground like this. So it's a realistic spicing up detail like that.
I see. So you can add some more depth with the backgrounds.
Like that. It's even if I just look around like this, I can still see details over there, but I didn't have to model it. So if there's a bunch of things like this, and also you can find simpler building models that you just scatter around and just place them around. So this is a nice and cool way to spice your model up, and it will work very well from interior views as well, and also in the surrounding, because now everything is very well detailed.
We have a lot of user questions, so let's just jump back in question time. First one, is there a way to force the objects from the library onto a surface, for example to the ground? I think that when you are dragging and dropping elements, they are going to find the closest flat surface, right?
Yeah. So when you place items, like let me just place this bench again. So if I click and drag it over this surface, it will snap to that surface perfectly. Now, obviously, when you move it, you can move it freely, but when you place it, then it will be placed onto the surface where you actually clicked.
Perfect. Next one, in ARCHLine.XP, do you need to save any changes before using the live sync?
No, though it's recommended, but you don't have to. Now, the reason why it's recommended is because let's imagine that you make some changes, you sync those changes back to live, and then you forgot to save your project. Now, in that case, you close them both, and the next time you open up the project, and you open up the live project as well, and you push the sync button, you will lose everything that is not there, because the software will think that you erased them because simply you did not save them. So yes, it is recommended to save, but it's not mandatory, let's say.
If I'm not using ARCHLine.XP, how do I import files into live?
If you do not use the design system, then a very simple way to import files is that you can go to, and you have two options. You can go to, if you already have something existing, you can go to import, and then you can choose these two, and a soon to be announced new file format, which will be the SketchUp file format. This will be, we will discuss next Tuesday, perhaps. Wednesday, sorry. Next Wednesday.
Stay
we will talk
tuned
about
for
this.
the announcement.
Yeah, if you're interested in that, if you're a SketchUp user, if you would like to use SketchUp files, you should watch our following presentation as well. So OBJ, FBX, and SKP files are supported. And then also you can start your project by importing a new one. If you go to the starting screen, then what you can do, you can start a project by an imported object as well. So those are your options.
Another question on forcing objects on the ground. If a car is placed on a cambered surface, will the car follow the camber? I think you would have to tilt the elements.
Yeah, it won't auto-align itself to the ramp, for example. No. It will be placed with its, we call it like a reference point. So the reference point will be aligned with the surface, but it won't auto-tilt. So you need to tilt it,
Yes, another question, where can I learn the software? How can I learn it?
Well, there are several options. The most obvious one is if you go here and you just push this button, then it will directly lead you to this page, which is, by the way, the online help of the 2019 and the 2020 and the rest of the versions. If you just scroll down, you will see these are very well focused, detailed helping videos, only 1 or 2 minutes or maximum 3, focusing on only one command, so it is very easy to jump in and learn these things, how they work.
Yes. Another question, system requirements. Can you show us where we can find it?
Well, these are the system requirements here, and here I also would like to show you that something that we discussed last time. If you're watching this video and you see this first, it's an important thing that the system requirements of ARCHLine.XP Live and the design system are a bit different. Most importantly, the GPU is more important for Live because everything happens instantaneously on your graphics card. So for that reason, we actually detailed this a little bit more. It is a little bit higher. I mean, the basic recommendations, the moderate design. This is like the minimal recommendations. This is the so-called G3D mark should be at least 3,000. I will explain you what that means. And if you use complex designs, then it should be at least 8,000. So now, as a fact, I know that, for example, at home I have a GTX 20 or 1660. So I just go to this website. This is actually a link here. You just go to the Passmark software website, and then you just type your GPU's type. So this is GTX 1660.
For example, that's the model you have.
Yeah,
and you want to check out if that checks the boxes.
Find it. So now the first column is the G3D mark. So I can see that even if I have the lowest ability, it is still good for the recommended size. But perhaps I have this one. So I don't remember. It's just I just Google it here and just find it here, and it helps me finding how good it is. And well, I always recommend, if you are a newcomer and you would like to try and test it for yourself, how smooth it runs on your computer, go ahead, go to our website. You can find the download link here as well on this live page here. You can have the free trial for 30 days. You can test all the features, you can design whatever you want, and you will see how smooth that runs for you.
That is what we wanted to discuss today during this session. Thank you very much for the questions. They are keeping the show much more relevant.
Yeah.
And you already sort of gave us a sneak peek into what we are going to discuss next. And you mentioned something about a new file format.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, well, I don't want to shut down the birds, but for the next session, it's an important thing. We will talk about the SketchUp file format that you can import into Live. But most importantly, you can actually work in quite the same fashion as we did with Live. I mean Live and ARCHLine.XP, because there's a new feature coming to SketchUp as an extension that allows Live to directly communicate with SketchUp in a sync option, the same way as we did here. You will learn in the next section how that works.
So that is going to be next Wednesday. Until then, thank you very much for your attendance and attention and questions. If you have anything what we haven't answered, you know how to look out for us. If you like this show, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, so you're never going to miss another show like this one. And until next time, thank you very much for attending and happy designing.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.